All right, guys, class is in session. Take your seats for part 2 of Alan Moore.
Oh, wow!
If you're curious to learn more about the occult, I highly recommend reading my favorite Eisner Award-winning Alan Moore comic series, Promethea, illustrated by the astounding J.H. Williams III, whose artwork is insane, with spectacular layouts and gorgeous graphic design. This story is about a college student named Sophie Bangs who's researching a fictional heroine named Promethea for a term paper, who ends up assuming her mantle and becoming the next living avatar of imagination. This comic is a crash course on mysticism, showing how occult symbolism puts magic and meaning into anything. Throughout its 5 volumes, you will learn about the meaning behind the 4 suits of the tarot, the symbolic descent of the Sumerian goddess Inanna into the underworld, philosophies about the masculine and feminine principle, and you take a literal walking trip through the 10 Sephiroth of the Kabbalistic Tree of Life with Promethea. And the finale is straight up Moore's interpretation of the revelation that is the end of the world. It's insanely dope and a fascinating read for anyone interested in learning more about mysticism and modern hermetic magic. Now, let's take a moment to talk about how Alan Moore hates movie and TV shows based upon his comic books.
What? Why?
Well, Robot, Alan Moore is famously adverse to Hollywood adaptations of his work. He has not seen Keanu Reeves in Constantine, or Johnny Depp in From Hell, or even Sean Connery in that fabulous adaptation of The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, which I own on DVD, but not because it's good, because it's really goofy and really silly. Zack Snyder hadn't even finished post-production on The Watchmen when Moore promised the Los Angeles Times that he would be spitting venom all over it for months to come. He reportedly refused to accept any money from the film and even asked to have his name removed from any association with it. That's how hardcore he was.
Wow, he really hates those movies.
What? Why? I'm gonna be stoked when someone makes a movie out of my fish monster.
These days, Moore would rather be left alone to ponder the great mysteries than to cash in on this comic book movie gold rush that's going on.
But why does he not like his movies? 'Cause he's bitter. He's got a personal problem.
Well, he does have some personal problems, that's for sure. He does have a chip on his shoulder. But I will say, I do agree with Alan Moore in the fact that the way he writes his comics, they're not adaptable into movies. In order to adapt them into a movie, you do have to butcher them. And he wants people to not just go out and watch the movie and think that they know what he was writing about. He wants you to actually sit down and read the comic. That's what he wants you to do, okay? Because you can't get the stuff from the movies that's actually in the comic books.
Yeah, but if I watch the movie, then I don't have to read the comic book.
No. Alan Moore would spit venom at you right now. He would pull all the rabbits out of his hat and have them attack you.
I knew it!
What about V for Vendetta? That movie has had a significant impact on human culture.
And the truth is, there is something terribly wrong with this country, isn't there?
All right, even though V for Vendetta is arguably the best adaptation of any of the adaptations, he is still not down, okay? He is still super not down. He was like, nah, brah. For instance, he was really pissed about the adaptation of From Hell because he spent 10 years doing mad, a PhD's worth of research on this comic, and then they just butcher and turn it into some stupid Hollywood thing with Johnny Depp. He's just so bummed. He's so bummed.
Yeah, I heard that they totally changed the story and the characters.
Yeah, that's what they do, and they don't care. And he doesn't want money from that. He doesn't want money for you to, rape his baby, you know? That's what he feels like you're doing.
Mr. Moore, will you sign my DVD of Watchmen Babies? Which of the babies is your favorite?
You see what those bloody corporations do? They take your ideas and they suck them. Suck them like leeches until they've gotten every last drop of the marrow from your bones.
And Moore's problems with Hollywood don't just end with the adaptations of his work. He's also bummed on the superhero genre in general.
What?
Calling it a potential cultural catastrophe.
Why?
Alan Moore doesn't hate the idea of superheroes. He's just saying that all these characters were created a long time ago and that it's time that we make some new things. Okay, it's time to move on, get some new stuff going on. I don't disagree with him.
I'm proud of all of my work, apart from that superhero stuff that I did that everybody else likes. I don't have any copies of that in the house anymore. I can't stand to look at it.
Do you want to read that quote by him?
Do you want me to read that quote by him?
I love that quote.
At a fall 2016 press conference in London, Moore was quoted as saying, "I think this century deserves its own culture. It deserves artists that are actually going to attempt to say things that are relevant to the times we are actually living in." That's a really long-winded way of me saying that I'm really, really sick of Batman. Dude's sick of Batman.
Nobody's sick of Batman.
I don't know, I'm getting kind of sick of Batman.
Nobody's sick of fish monsters, though. That's original, right?
Okay, all right, just stop with the fish monster. It's gonna go nowhere. It's going nowhere.
Hey! Whoa!
I was just joking. Fish monster's gonna be huge.
You're right, it is.
It's gonna be the next, this is relevant to the times we're living in. This is what Alan Moore is talking about. This is what we need, is Fish Monster.
Coming this summer,
How did I get here anyway?
Robot is stuck inside his house, and he can't leave.
This house is old and scary.
But this house also happens to be haunted.
Hello? Who's there?
Now, the only thing for Robot to do is to read scary horror comics from the 1950s.
Oh my gosh. Oh, this comic is scary.
Comics that happen to have been banned.
Oh my god. Banned horror comics.
Coming this summer, it's the pilot episode of Robot's Bedtime Stories. Only on the Robot Adventures channel. Subscribe today and ring the bell to be notified of all future Robot episode releases.
Teacher, what has Alan Moore been writing recently if he's tired of superheroes?
Well, Space Brain, Alan Moore has recently published Jerusalem, a 1,300-page book of the non-comic variety that posits a rationalist view of an afterlife, one bound by the laws of physics. Jerusalem offers a dense history of the poverty-stricken neighborhood where Alan Moore grew up in, and at a 2016 press conference promoting the book, Moore said he thinks he's only got about 250 pages of comics left in him. Those include Providence, the Kickstarter-funded Cinema Purgatorio, and one more entry in the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen series. He may get into filmmaking, but he's publicly stated that he intends to retire from comics.
How do you feel about him retiring?
Well, Space Brain, I feel like if he doesn't want to write superhero comics anymore, then stop writing superhero comics, Alan Moore. He has done so much for this medium that he doesn't need to do anything else, okay? He's like done his work. And I want him to do whatever makes him happy, okay? Because that guy is like super grumpy. So like whatever makes you happy, Alan Moore, you follow that. And I'll read it. I'm gonna read this at some point. It's really big though. It's kind of scaring me a little bit.
The stuff that I'm doing now, I genuinely think is better than anything that I've done before. Because, well, it better be really, because otherwise I'm deteriorating, aren't I?
Personally, I have my holy trinity of weirdo occultist comic book writers, with Alan Moore being in the father position. He's got a lot of that father energy, you know? He's very Old Testament God, very cranky, and would probably flood like the entire world if he could. The other two in my trinity are Grant Morrison, who takes the son position. You know, he's very Jesus-y, he's very happy and nice, and is like love, whatever. And then on the Holy Spirit side, we have Alejandro Jodorowsky, because nobody knows like what the hell that guy is talking about. So that's all Holy Spirit stuff.
Well, teacher, I think that Alan Moore might disagree with your holy trinity of comic book writers considering what he thinks about Grant Morrison.
That's totally true, Space Brain. Alan Moore does have epic beef with Grant Morrison.
Why doesn't he like Grant Morrison?
Well, I think it's because Moore likes being the only game in town. He was like the premier famous genius comics writer who infused his stories with magic and openly practiced the occult. Then Grant came along and has similar vibe, but is left stuffy and more sexy. But honestly, there's more than enough room in my heart for both of them. In 2014, he described Morrison as a fame-hungry individual without the talent necessary to satisfy his inflated ambitions, who has decided to connect himself with my name by simultaneously borrowing heavily from my work
Whoa.
And I decided the best thing I could do about this needy limpet was to ignore him and everything connected with him.
Needy limpet?
Needy limpet. That's brutal, Alan Moore. I hope one day these two can stop fighting, hug it out, and come together to fight the forces of ignorance through art. Or at least just be chill. Alan Moore's contribution to comics is incalculable. He is regarded as one of the most influential writers in comics history, helping to lift an entire medium to a higher standard by creating stories with a depth rarely seen by other authors before or since. He's always planting philosophical seeds for the minds of future generations. And as once stated, he believes, art can transform consciousness. All right, class, it's time for your homework assignment. Be sure to read the classic Alan Moore graphic novels Watchmen and V for Vendetta, as well as my personal favorite, Promethea. You can also get down and dirty with a lot of the philosophies of Alan Moore in the 2003 documentary, The Mindscape of Alan Moore. And even though he doesn't necessarily approve of Hollywood making movies out of his comic books, I highly recommend V for Vendetta by the Wachowski sisters. Join us next time on Greater Creators, where we're going to discuss the works of other amazing creators who influenced generations. Class dismissed. Greater Creators is a study of creative icons who push the boundaries of art and whose influence can still be felt today. So take a seat. Class is in session.